Welcome to Living Life on the Max with Keisha B. Spivey, a weekly podcast that will challenge you and encourage you to live your best life yet. Well, hello there, and welcome to Living Life on the Max. And I am Keisha Spivey, and I'm so excited to have these couple of moments with you. You know, in our last session, we started talking about navigating problems. Problems are those things that nobody wants to talk about, but every single one of us have to deal with them. And here's the reality. We can't stop them from coming. They are a part of life. On last week, I shared a quote from Albert Einstein. It says, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." We can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. And I wanted to kind of open back up with that again today because all of us want ideal outcomes and we all want results and we all want to meet our goals and we all want to deal with the thing on the other side. But the process is we have to change the way we think. We have to change the way we see things. We have to get a proper perspective on how to deal with these problems. And as we begin to deal with them and we begin to make some changes, then the outcome changes. You know, I had a class on last night. And I shared with them that it's crazy for us to keep counseling ourselves on what we know, to keep doing the same things we've already and always done, and expect different results. If I'm not mistaken, that is the definition of insanity. So in order to get a different outcome, we have to do things a little bit different. You know, last week we talked about how the first step in this process is deciding to solve your problem. So often people navigate around situations and they poke at it and they play with it, they look at it and kind of just stare at it. But until you decide to solve it, nothing's going to change. It's just something sitting in between you and that thing that you want to accomplish. It's sitting in between who you are today and that person that you long to be. So today we're going to pick right back up where we left off in that last session. And we're going to talk about step 2. Step 2 in navigating problems is to identify the real problem. The real problem. Before a doctor can prescribe a medication for an ailment, the first thing he has to do is diagnose it. You can tell him what your symptoms are and he can kind of throw something at it, but until there's a diagnosis, then he doesn't know what medication, what treatment, what things need to be applied so that your outcome can change. And it's the same thing with problems. But the reality is, we have misconception of the difference between problems and predicaments. Problems and predicaments. A philosopher named Abraham Kaplan, he makes a distinction between problems and predicaments. And he says, you know, a problem is something that you can do something about. If you can't do something about it, then it's not a problem. It's a predicament. So you think about it. Problems can be solved. Predicaments must be endured. Say that again. Problems can be solved. Predicaments must be endured. When you treat a predicament like a problem to be solved, you become frustrated, you become angry, you become depressed, and you are wondering why things aren't changing because it's not a problem. You can't fix that thing. It's a predicament. It's something that you have to persevere through. It's something that you have to cope with or learn how to navigate through. Doesn't mean you have to deal with it in that current state for the rest of your life. But there are some things about predicaments that can't be changed. I use this as an example. I love my husband. We've been married over 25 years, but we are the exact opposite personality. I like to do things super fast. My husband takes his time. You know, I am, like to talk. My husband likes to be quiet. We are very different. But in 25 years, I've had to realize I could either look at our differences as a problem or I could look at it as a predicament that I have to learn how to navigate through so that I can get the desired outcome. I can't change him. He can't change me. I could consider that a problem, but I can also look at it as an opportunity, something that we can grow in together as we become each other's complement. I don't like better half. I like compliment. I'm able to compliment him. He's able to compliment me. But early in our marriage, I looked at our personality differences as a problem. And I was trying to fix it. And I couldn't. Actually, it was a predicament. It's a part of the process that I have to navigate through. And if I treat it like a problem, all it's going to do is frustrate me and it's going to make me angry. I want to give you a couple symptoms of viewing a predicament as a problem. The first one is you're wasting time and energy. Oh my gosh, I could tell you the amount of time I wasted trying to get him to see things my way or to do things my way. All I did was frustrate myself in the middle of it all. Because he had his view, I had my view. Not either view was wrong or right. They were just different. So if you're wasting energy and wasting time and you're not getting anywhere, that might be a symptom. When you're worrying and becoming anxious over something, you're doing what you know to do. You're being obedient to the best of your ability. You're working at that thing as in all that you know, but nothing's changing. Maybe it's not a problem. Maybe it's a predicament. What about wrestling with making decisions? And often when you view a predicament as a problem, you end up making the wrong decision. And then you circle back over that thing, trying to fix it, but you just keep finding yourself being like a hamster on a wheel, going in these vicious cycles and getting nowhere. You find yourself wallowing in self-pity. Pity party of one, please. Don't invite anybody to the party, but you feel like, wait a minute, nobody understands. Nobody can sense this, what I'm going through. You literally isolate yourself and start feeling like you're like this is just a default, that you can't do anything. So you literally feel stuck and you end up in a pity party. And lastly, what we do when you're trying to treat a predicament like a problem is we welcome the role of a victim. I can't fix it. I can't solve it. So now I am a victim. So I developed this victim mentality because I can't change this thing. And it's because I'm looking at a predicament like it's a problem. You got to identify the real problem. And you can say, okay, Keisha, this is great info, but how do I know the difference between a predicament and a problem? You got to learn how to deal with the root and stop playing with the fruit. I'm going to say that again. You got to learn how to deal with the root and stop playing with the fruit, not the symptom, not the part of the issue that you're dealing with. So often what we do is we start picking at the things we think we can have an immediate immediate impact on. What can you do? What changes can I make? What happens? What do I need to do to fix this thing? And what'll happen is you're looking at the fruit on the tree. You're looking at the symptoms instead of dealing with the root cause of why do I feel this way? Why am I responding this way? Why is this a problem for me? Why is this an issue for me? Why am I, not feeling like I'm making any progress? Anthony D'Angelo said, when solving problems, dig at the root instead of just hacking at the leaves. Some of us are tired because all we're doing is hacking at the leaves. Something comes up. I just want to fix this part that I see. But every time you turn around, you're dealing with fear and anxiousness. Why is that? What is the root cause of that? What's the real problem? Most of us rather deal with the part that we see instead of dealing with the part that's unseen. Digging up roots is hard work. It's time consuming. It has to be intentional. But when you do what's required, when you start working on those root systems, the fruit changes. When you deal with the root, the leaves change. But it requires doing the work. You'll stop wasting years on symptoms of a problem without changing the outcome. And I think so often most of us throttle back and don't want to face problems head on because we're tired. We're like, I'm not getting anywhere. And just maybe it's because you're not dealing with the right part. I'm talking to you guys about navigating problems because God has had me work on this first, but I believe it's because you want to change the narrative. You want to change the narrative. You want things to be different. You want to become a better version of you. You want a different outcome. You want your financial status to change. You want your relationship status to change. You want your emotional health and your mental health and your physical health to be different. So you have to change the narrative. And, what's the real issue? Is the issue insecurity? Is it fear? Is it doubt? Is it financial? Is it bad decisions? Is it wrong thinking? Is it procrastination? Is it laziness? Is it excuse-itis? Is it a lack of experience? It doesn't matter what it is until you identify that thing. You can't start digging around in that thing to figure out where it came from. How did it get there? And what's going to be required to get it out? And I often believe once you figure out what the real problem is, what the real issue is, and you give that thing a name, You give it a name. You're able to do what's required to navigate through it. I believe that's how you change the narrative. You want a different outcome, you have to adjust the script. And you got to deal with things deeper than what you see. I saw this image and I thought it was so cool. It says, life was throwing curveballs at me left and right. Then God gave me a bat and showed me how to swing. When I saw this, I thought it was the perfect response to problems. And, my dad played baseball, my husband played baseball, my son played baseball. I have sat through my share of baseball games. I played softball. I love that. And I've seen people hit home runs and I've seen people strike out. But the truth of the matter is this: before the ball ever makes contact with the bat, the batter had to put his eye on it. The batter needs to make eye contact with the ball, because if you cannot see the ball, you cannot connect to the ball. If you don't connect to the ball, that thing that's coming at you, if there's no connection, there's no scoring. You can sit there and look at it all day long and you might get a walk or you might get a strikeout, but there's got to be connection. And if you don't even show up to start swinging, you can't hit. I think too many people look at problems as somebody at a baseball game and you're sitting over in the stands wanting to score, wanting to progress, wanting to become better, but you won't even get up and show up in the box. And I don't even care if you're the next batter up and you're sitting in the box and you're taking all those practice swings. I don't care if you pretend all day long. Until you get up and you face the ball that's coming at you, until you make contact with that thing, you can't score. And a lot of people are just existing in life instead of becoming and enjoying the things that God has created for us to enjoy. And they look at problems and it's almost kind of like a deer in headlights. You're just stuck. The problem is so controlling to you. It's literally manipulating your life and taking over. You got to realize, wait a minute, you have the power to change the narrative. And yes, sometimes the balls come at you before you're not ready. Yeah, been there, done that. Sometimes the ball comes and you take a swing and you miss it. But you still showed up with the expectation and the anticipation that I'm going to identify this thing coming at me. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make contact with it. When you make contact, the bat and the ball, is magic happening. And I just happen to believe when you make contact with your problems, when your faith hits the problem, when your faith hits the situation or the issue, I believe miracles can happen. But you're not experiencing those miracles and enjoying the outcome because you're not showing up. Now, sometimes the obstacle is the opportunity. How many opportunities are you missing out in life because you see everything as the obstacle and you refuse to get up? You refuse to stand up and to swing because you're scared you're going to strike out. You refuse to believe that just possibly I could win the game. So instead you sit back and you watch. You forget, wait a minute, there's more to me than what I've become. I could use this opportunity to discover how to prevail if I choose to. Or I can sit back and look at it in doubt. Last week in our last segment, we talked about navigating problems. And we said step 1 was to decide to solve it. And we said today the second step is identifying the real problem. Our next segment, we're going to talk about facing the problem. But I just want you to realize, if you never decide to solve it, you settle in on looking at it. That's all it'll ever be, is a problem, not a possibility. Once you have decided to solve it, then you need to begin to identify the real problem. And if you don't identify the real issue, the underlying cause, if you don't realize and identify the thing that keeps showing up in your life year after year, birthdays are coming and going, but you're still facing the same problem. Maybe, just maybe, you haven't identified the root of it. You're playing with the leaves. You're picking off the fruit, but you're not digging around in the root system. Because once you change the quality of the roots, then the leaves and the fruit change. And that literally translates into the life that you're living. the quality of your relationships, the quality of your finances, the quality of your mind and your heart and your emotions, the quality of you walking through life, seizing opportunities to enjoy your journey. You got to identify the real problem. And once you know what that thing is, then you can create a strategy to start attacking that thing and to start dealing with it head on, because you're able to realize, wait a minute, greater is he that's in me than any problem that can come against me. I'm equipped for this thing. This thing didn't just sneak into my life. It's here. So either I allowed it or it's a part of refining me. It's part of stripping me off out of those things I don't need. It's pruning away the parts of me that are not any good. It's developing my character. They're developing my character. So if you look at a problem as an opportunity, if you look at these things coming at you as opportunities to develop your character so that you can be somebody that when you look in the mirror, you are proud of who you are. Not trying to impress anybody, not trying to compete with anybody. You're just trying to be the best you possible. And you can't achieve that unless you're willing to push through the problems. And on our next segment, that's what we're going to talk about. Facing your problem head on fearlessly. So until we connect again, this is Keisha. I'll see you soon. Do you to the max.